Hey friends, so I was on my backwards walk around the block, which I do for my knees, from knees over toes guys, trying to fix my knees and my back. I was on my backward walk around the block and I had a sort of epiphany, well, for me at least. And it has something to do with what I heard Ram Dass once say, which is we are just nature running off. We are nature running off. We're just karma running off. We're not even in control. We think we're the actor. That's where we think we're this ego person of, my name is Casey, this is my body, that's who I am. All these actions of what I'm doing are who I am. Well, that's just the ego. We're not really doing anything. Whatever you're doing with your arms, whatever you're blah, 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 I'm doing this. Oh no, I got caught in the game with my emotions. The emotions is what catches us and keeps us in to the illusion that we're the actor. When in fact, we are a sort of actor, but the actor's going on his own. It's just going to happen. You know what I mean? Whatever happens is going to happen because it was supposed to happen. It was meant to happen, which means everything's just a play. It's already written. We're just along for the ride. And the sooner we can take that sort of perspective, the easier it is for us to relax, to start relaxing about things. We're like, oh no, I grabbed that drink. Oh no, I had that drink. I'm really trying not to drink coffee. I'm just using this as an example. I've been off coffee now for almost 100 days. Again, much better without coffee. Caffeine just nukes your adrenals. Caffeine nukes your adrenals, burns them out. Then I was exhausted. I was drinking 2 or 3, 4 or 5 cups of coffee a day, and I was exhausted, perpetually exhausted, right? And I stopped drinking coffee. That exhaustion I've had for such a long time, because I was constantly just nuking my body, was when I was drinking caffeine, right? It went away. Isn't that crazy? So anyway, you know what I mean? We're just nature running off. So let's say I'm trying to stop drinking coffee, and I have coffee. First of all, we can't judge ourselves because we're just nature running off. It doesn't matter what it is, good or bad or whatever you want to call it. It was going to happen. It was always going to happen. Just do it. Be in the moment. Do it. Guess what? When it's supposed to fall off, when your bad habits are supposed to fall off, I wouldn't even call them bad habits. I would just say there are things you're doing right now that, you know, eventually will change for the better, if you want to say that, right? They'll fall off naturally. Like drinking coffee kind of fell off naturally for me. Drinking alcohol fell off naturally because you got to stop fighting it. You got to stop fighting anything. Right? That's one of our biggest stressors, our biggest aggravators, is not being able to accept people or things. I know that is for me. That's a big aggravator. That causes me stress for no reason. Like, oh, this person really ticks me off. Oh, that's a trigger, right? We get triggered. I always try to pay attention to those. Anytime I get upset about anything or lose my patience, I say, something's going on. Something triggered me. Why do I care? Why do I care what this person does ever? What anybody does ever? They're all just nature running off. They are, and so are you. This movement with my hand, I'm not doing any of this. I'm not doing the talking. You know what I mean? Am I? Who is that? Who is I? You know what I mean? We're just the observer. I'm the observer. I'm observing right now. If I could really get into it, you know what I mean? If I was next level, I'd be observing this whole moment and not even attached to the voice coming out. And that's kind of what's happening. You know what I mean? You just surrender and you say, let her rip. Let her rip, God. That happens sometimes. You can do that. It happens when I'm writing sometimes. It's like, who is this writing? I never write this good. You know what I mean? I never. How did this improve so vastly? You let her rip. You get in, you know what I mean? You get balanced enough. You get the diet down. Diet is so important. I know I always come back to diet. Diet is number one. It's like one of the bedrocks of purification because it affects everything. Emotions, you know what I mean? Whether you're depressed, anxiety, stress, being aggravated, not having enough patience, being angry. That's just part of this nature. That the chemistry we put in our body affects the chemistry in our body. It's so crazy that it's actually hard for a lot of people to comprehend that. They just, because we've been so hardcore conditioned on this in the toxic, as part of the toxic food system, to not accept that. Just be like, no, what are you talking about? Disease is random. Disease is real. There are actually things called diseases. No, not really. There ain't nothing. There's only one problem ever. It's basically congestion of the lymphatic system, acids, and that all just throws everything out of whack. That's it. And it's the same fix too. You have to detoxify and purify the body, which helps you regulate and release emotions, stress, anxiety, adrenals, parathyroid, depression, right? Everything's connected. Everything's a chemical balance. That's why sometimes I find myself growing impatient with my son. I'm like, oh man, I need to be more patient, right? And I'm like, why am I even getting upset about anything? He's only acting based off of his conditioning and his chemistry. It's not, you know what I mean? If he just goes nuts and starts bouncing off the wall and kicks me in the nuts, I mean, getting angry is just emotional, you know what I mean? He ain't in control of that. That's not to say I can't take a step toward a disciplinary action, but that's just my nature. Trying to deal with his nature. We're just nature coalescing, just dealing with each other. So next time someone cuts you off in traffic, this is hard. I actually don't really get angry. Sometimes it almost comes up like someone will do something crazy in traffic, and I'm just like, oh, that happened. I basically say, that happened, and then just move on. No anger. Who cuts you off? Who cares? It's already done. It was always going to happen. You were always going to get cut off, because it's trying to trigger you. Nothing's an accident. Nothing that ever happens in your life is an accident. Think about that. If that's the case, why are we thinking? There's no need to think. Let the divine hand guide you. That's what happens when we can stay present. Presence and purification will fix everything in your life. Because as you focus on getting your chemistry right and getting your diet right, raw fruits mainly, and some leafy greens, vegetables, herbs, and really purifying the vessel, you will become a better conduit for the divine. It's purification. I mean, look at the fasting in the Bible and all the ancient works. Fasting and prayer. You know what I mean? Purification. You're purifying the body to the highest degree when you're fasting. Really, you're letting the body heal to the max. For water fasting or dry fasting, but be careful with dry fasting. People try to push it hard. They get into dry fasting a little too hard and they die. They were always going to die. That's how it was going to be. That's a tough one. If you can think about death like that in such a perspective as that ain't the person. That's just some physical iteration of a vessel they were part of for a fraction of a moment, of a blink of an eye. I always like to recall one of my favorite explanations of reincarnation I heard from Ram Dass talking about the Buddha. He says, imagine a rock a mile high, by a mile wide, by a mile long. And imagine a bird flying over that rock. That's a big rock. It's like a mountain. Every 100 years with like a silk scarf or something like that, right? This may not be exact. The time it takes for that silk scarf every 100 years to break down that mountain that's a mile by a mile by a mile, it's how long we've been doing this. Buddha saw his last 99,000 lives. Check that out. Now, do you want to see your past lives? I feel like there's people on both sides. I would say I don't want to. It'd be neat to know a couple things about some of my past lives. Do you want to relive that? I don't think so. I don't think anybody would really want to live a lot of their past lives, because it would not be fun. Because think about it, you had to do your nature had to do a lot of bad karma to get to a place of better standing, you know what I mean? And you probably wouldn't want to go back and, you know what I mean? You'd be like, oh, this is fun. I'm an Indian. I'm a Native American to the Americas. I was here first. Oh, there's some, you know what I mean? You see where I'm going with this? There's some European settlers. You're living as this. Then, you know what I mean? You know where that goes. You know what I mean? You don't want to be part of that. You've had every experience you could probably imagine. You've had so many lives. You've been murdered. You've been, all the bad stuff. You've been, everything that's bad has happened. So where do we always come back to? Don't worry about it. Try to relax as much as possible. And always remember, we're just nature running off. Just you are the observer. We're all just God observing himself. That's it. We're just a vessel for God. We are one with the infinite creator. That is the greatest devotion. Staying present is surrender, acceptance, purification. If you focus on these, it doesn't matter if you mess up. I messed up a million times. I keep messing up. Just keep going and never stop. Namaste.